So, Justin, thank you very much for sharing one more time Chasing Houses with us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I really am very happy to be part of this Balkan experience again. Yeah, only this time it's online.
Unfortunately, we hope we will have a chance to screen it in a physical space, not only in a digital space. So tell us a few words about the film. What is Chasing Houses?
Yeah, Chasing Houses is actually a good question. It's a road movie. It's an experimental documentary. I say experimental because I'm not just trying to make a documentary in terms of telling to document things, but more like trying to describe a phenomenon, or to also to have some. I also think of it more like a philosophical approach and an artistic approach to a political and societal topic. Yeah. And it's based on the image of a house that's become unstable. I was in California for a whole year for studies, and then once I was driving down the highway and a house passed by, a house on wheels, and that was the initial idea that made me want to. Of course, I got totally excited, and I told my friend, house, there's a house, and the house is driving by, and she was an American, and she was like, yeah, whatever. So for her, it wasn't very special, but for me as a European, my house is something that's fixed in one space, and it stays there for generations. And so for me, this was also a very symbolical image of society, or also this question of freedom, but also something, very unstable and something very fragile. And so this all mixes up in this image of this one house, and the idea of, okay, because in my former education I was also a stonemason, so I actually also was building houses myself, and those were houses that were very solid and handcrafted. And the houses on wheels in the United States that I saw, you can also see it in the film in one scene, they're very, they get teared down very easily, and you can destroy them within a few hours, and they also don't last very long. Within a few decades, they fall apart, and then you have to buy a new house. So all of this fascinated me very much, and that made me come up with the idea of making this movie. And also, I once in Germany, I used to live in a trailer myself, but more in this Bauwagensiedlung. This is kind of an anarchist type of living, kind of, yeah. But the idea is still the same. It's a house on wheels. And all of this came together, and that attracted me to making this film. Yeah, so that was the long answer to what is Chasing Houses.
No, it's great. So this is like what made you do the film, this image of this house like passing by in front of your eyes, basically.
Yeah, that was the initial idea. And then since then I for years I had in my mind, I want to make a road movie with a house or with houses. And then years later, I finally wrote a grant application and tried to apply for funding. And then it took another few years, and then I finally started making it. And in between came the housing crisis. So it also became even more of a political topic, because or first the image of okay, houses aren't stable anymore, and but also in real life, they actually get taken away from people. And the mobile homes especially, they don't get just sold, or the banks take the house. Well, the bank literally takes the house back and then they drive it away again if you can't pay your credit, your fees anymore, and then they take the house away. So yeah, it's very multi-layered, and all of this was very fascinating to me. And before, I had made some films based on cowboys and Western, and so then I started researching on road movies, and yeah, and I finally made one myself. So yeah, very happy about it.
Congratulations, it's a great film, really. What themes, issues, and conflicts are represented in the documentary? Why do you think it have been chosen? Why you chose to talk about these issues? Because you have a great variety of people choosing to live in this kind of houses.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, some of the people I also wanted to not just go into the stereotype of, okay, trailer living people, they are all this type of poor, drunk, whatever. But I tried to find actually a broad range of people who chose really actually by themselves, or were forced to live in those houses. So yeah, I mean, you could say that in the very broad topic is capitalism. So this is actually quite big, and the American dream and how they conflict. So is this actually really working? So some of the people living in mobile homes, they got retired and they couldn't afford a regular house anymore. You get one who is kind of a bit of a hippie type, who is really just enjoying to live close to nature. And some of them were really just super poor and couldn't do anything else. And towards the end of the film, which also was the end of our trip that we did, we traveled through the United States. I was there in the States to make this film for entirely 5 months, and the last month I was traveling with a friend of mine, Stefan Auch, who did the camera for a month. We went on a road trip and shot, and we more or less by chance met people along the road, and in the end we came to Monument Valley. So we followed the Route 66, which is the route for an Easy Rider, which is also quoted in our film and referred to. And we arrived in Monument Valley, and Monument Valley actually is the Navajo, is Navajo country, so it's a Native American reservation. And so this also became part of our film. And just to one example was that I didn't know that Monument Valley, which is this iconic landscape for America that you can see on all posters and in many Westerns, and it's actually not America, it belongs to Navajo people. And that was for me really stunning because I hadn't known it. So I really felt I want this in the film, I want this to be visible, that a lot of the Westerns were filmed from one side of those famous mountains, but if you go to the other side, you see a lot of actually trailers and mobile homes where people live, and actually in quite poor conditions, because the Native Americans, the situation is still very dramatic actually, because they're still treated very badly in the United States. So yeah, all of this I wanted to so yeah, I couldn't say Chasing Houses is just about one thing. It's more like okay, if you look at trailer or mobile home living, you can look at it from many different perspectives. And so I wanted to show as many as possible. And in the end, you get another idea, or you have another perspective on mobile homes and trailers. And yeah, I wanted to show a different side of the United States. And yeah.
This is like what I noticed, because you start with this young woman that says that she says that I'm firmly middle class, and people are like in a shock when they hear that I chose this kind of living, which is like in our generation there is this kind of escapism. So it starts with this, so you get identified with the first one.
Yeah.
Instead of like in the middle of the film, you have these people, these rednecks or people that they were thrown out of the system and they're living in this because they didn't have another choice, basically. So you create this arc, and then in the end, you reach the point with the Native Americans, which is actually they live in the worst case scenario in their land that they were stolen from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not only stolen, but even polluted with uranium mines and yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
How many people did you interview? I mean, do we see all the characters that you had an interview, or there were more, and you chose?
There were a few more, maybe 4 or 5 more that didn't all make it in the film. Either one interview, unfortunately, we had technical problems. In the end, we realized the microphone didn't work properly. This is, of course, really painful. With a female lorry driver. She was really cool, and so I was really frustrated that I found out that the sound, anyway, we couldn't use it. It happens. And yeah, there were a few more that didn't really make a story, or they, I mean, making a lot of times we didn't have much time. So with many of the people, we actually really met them along the road, and we had a few hours with them, and then we drove on. And I mean, almost nobody is used to having a camera in front of you. So with some people, it simply didn't work out in terms of language and so on. But yeah, I think, yeah. And in the end, I really felt like I would have liked to go back and shoot more, but the funding was over and time was done, and so we had to go back to Germany. And so yeah, that's who we met and who made it into the film. Mm-hmm.
How did you manage to fund the film? Because it sounds like someone will hear road move experiment, and then they will say, yeah, piece of cake, which is not. So how did you manage to do this film?
It was my first longer film that I ever made, and my first kind of documentary. And so and I didn't study film. I came from fine arts, from the art school, and I applied for film funding at the Medienboard Berlin-Brandenburg for experimental film, and they gave me 20,000 or 25, I think 25,000 euros. And I thought in the beginning, wow, this is super amazing, 25,000. Sounded good in the beginning. And then I also was lucky to get a residency at the Villa Aurora in Los Angeles for 3 months. So I could stay there. It's an artist residency from the German Auswärtige Amt, so it's very official artist residency, and it's in a villa in Los Angeles, and you have a view to the Pacific Ocean, and it's really great. But it didn't really fit with making a documentary on mobile homes. So I went from there to mobile home parks and tried to meet people, and it somehow didn't quite click. I mean, I went on some transports. I started meeting transportation companies and I followed them around. But in the end, most of the film was actually made when we drove around with a old car, my friend and me, 2 tents, and a lot of times we camped in the desert. And every now and then we took a shower somewhere. So it was very basic. And yeah, I mean, I had a little bit of funding, but after this time, the money ran out, and I also didn't have much to finish for the whole post-production. First, I didn't have any money, and then I got another scholarship from the Künstlerinnenprogramm in Berlin. So, but altogether, I mean, I had something like 35,000 euros, and I think a lot of people wouldn't even start to think about making a film with that kind of money. And luckily, I didn't know. So I still wanted to make my film, and it took quite a long time to also finish it. So we shot in 2013, and then we were done editing in 2016. We edited some more and then final cut was in 2017. So and that of course was also because I had to work on a lot of projects on the side to earn my living, and so yeah. But I don't know, I mean, I'm still very happy I made it, and I didn't make it for money. I wanted to have an adventure, and I wanted to, yeah. And it was a great trip, and the American West is, yeah. So I felt like I'm in a film set most of the time, and I was. So yeah, it's a very low budget production, but I don't know, maybe that's also part of the charm of making films. I think it's good to have some funding at least. And it would be nice to have more, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but you pulled it through because 35,000 is basically nothing for a feature film.
Yeah, and especially not if you have to go to the United States, and you know, travel costs and so on. I had a pretty old car, it broke down, I had to buy a new car. So, and then another few $1,000s were gone.
Oh. But, you started working on this movie before Trump got elected.
Yeah.
So did this impact the production in any way? You have seen the before and the after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, we in 2017 we started editing it again, so we did change it a little bit also because of Trump. And in the first, well, when in our first version, when we had we showed it to colleagues and friends to see what they were thinking, and we have one character in this film who's a Tea Party supporter, and he's very, I mean, he's very, quite a macho guy. And when we first showed it to people, they thought he was too extreme and too, I don't know, too much of everything. And then Trump came along, and now everybody thinks he's, I mean, we called him Little Trump in the end because, yeah. And also, I mean, to me, it was like when this political change came, also because I had gone on this trip and I had met the people and talked to them. For me, it made much more sense because I could see why this happened, or what climate brought this change along, because of the economical situation, and and the idea, I mean, when I made this film, I said it was also about this idea of freedom. And for example, one of my questions that I asked people in my interviews always was, what's freedom for you? And they always felt like freedom is something really super important. But what freedom meant to them was something very different from my personal idea of freedom. So for example, several people said, yeah, freedom means I can defend myself, I have my own gun, and I can shoot people when I want to. So, so yeah, and to meet people with this, and also even this Tea Party guy in my film, it was somehow really good to talk to him, and because he wasn't just an asshole, he really felt it. I mean, when I talked to him, he almost started crying because he really wanted to tell me something. He had this political message, and he really wanted me to understand and the world to understand. And if we all would get it, that, you know, for example, capitalism is a system that if you only let it happen, then it's the best system that we can have, and it's self-sustaining, and I don't know, and if you only work hard enough, everybody can make it. And this is freedom to him. And I don't know, he was very, this was very important to him, and somehow it was good to talk to somebody who was obviously politically in quite a different position than my own, but yeah, somehow it was almost moving that that he felt it from the heart. And he meant well. He thought he would save the world with his ideology. So yeah, it was, he didn't manage to change my point of view, but yeah, it was interesting to talk to him. Yeah.
So in a way, this film, it is a political statement.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to me, it really is political, even though it maybe not in your face, but it definitely is. It talks about economical differences and of course the inequalities of Native Americans, and it questions this idea of, okay, we have a house here and we have to pay a lot of money that we don't have, so people they are in debt for years and years and years, and the system of you're always dependent on the banks and so on, and then if you can't keep paying, they just kick them out, and there's no social support and no solidarity, and all of this is something that I wanted to touch in this film. And to me, it's a very political film to talk about, also to talk about people who are poor and maybe it's not their own fault. Maybe it's the system and not their own personal, that they didn't work hard enough. So
was ever dangerous for you doing this kind of looking for these people?
We did have at least one situation that was kind of tricky when we met people in a filling station, and they said, oh, so I mean, in the United States you get in touch with people very easily because everybody talks to everybody, at least. I mean, we were white and obviously kind of tourists, so people started talking to us, and they invited us for a barbecue, but then they got very drunk and started, all of a sudden we realized they were also armed. I mean, they had guns, and took drugs, and yeah, in the end we slept in their backyard. And then in the middle of the night I woke up, and I heard steps in front of the tent, and I didn't know. So there was obviously somebody standing, and you didn't know what would happen. But I think this was, anyway, so nothing happened. And the next day we did shoot, I mean, we did not shoot, but yeah, shoot a film with one of them. But yeah, that was, on the other hand, I wouldn't have, this is something that I also like about making documentary films. I get in touch with people I wouldn't get in touch with otherwise, because if it wouldn't have been for the film, I don't think we would have made barbecue with them. And it's also very interesting to get to know people, of very, very, very different people.
Yeah, because you're looking for your subjects. Mm-hmm. You do not have a script that tells you, today I'm going to talk with this person and it's over. You have, in a way, to enter their private sphere. Mm-hmm. And that's why I did this question to you, because this private sphere is someone's world, and someone's world can be dangerous, and the people sometimes, the people that you have in the film seem that they like guns. You are in a country that carrying a gun is completely fine. Mainly there is like there are men there that. Yeah. So I get it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously it's a film about homes, and so yeah, it's true, you have to enter people's private sphere, and that's something very tricky. I mean, you want to be grateful that they let you in, and at the same time I don't know what they expect from me. So as a documentary filmmaker, you're always also a projection for the people you work with, because you give them your whole attention, and you tell them, wow, your life is so interesting to me that I want to make a film about you, which is something that I think people in trailer homes don't experience all the time, that somebody tells them. I mean, for me, it was also, I said, I'm from Europe, and for us, this is a kind of living that I don't know, because we don't have it. We have, yeah, like I said, we have solid houses and they don't move. And so for me, that made it for them acceptable that I want to make a film about them. So I didn't come and say, hey, I want to make a film about poor people. How about you? Which is also not true. I wanted to make a film about their homes, but they have to let me in, and they don't know what I'm going to make with it. And it could be that at some point, all of a sudden they changed their mind and they started to look at me differently. And I mean, yeah, so it was a bit tricky sometimes. And I was quite exhausted when I came back home after this trip, but it was also very exciting.
Someone from the audience has a question for you. How did the director approach the protagonists? What did he tell them about the film, and how did they react?
Yeah, like I said, so in the beginning, I started going to mobile home parks and talked to the managers mostly. And I asked them if they knew some people I could work with, and that somehow actually didn't bring nothing. And then I went to the factory where they made the mobile homes, so where this industry where they built them, and from there I started going with transportation companies, and we followed them, and that brought another 1 or 2 interviews. But mostly actually was, like I said, we were driving around along Route 66 or following houses from that got transported from one park to another or to some private property. And then when we arrived, we would ask the new owner, hey, can we make a film with you? Or some people we just met along the road, like in a real road movie. Because we were stopping at a gas station and there was, for example, this highway recycle guy, and I talked to him, and first I thought, oh, too bad, because he doesn't live in a mobile home. But then I thought, hey, this is a very mobile person, and he actually really lives on the road along the highway. And so then after half an hour small talk, I asked him if he wanted to be part of the film. Or the Native American couple, they were selling burgers, Navajo burgers, on the street, and then we asked them. So, and most of the time, or a lot of times, the people we filmed with we had only met them half an hour or an hour before, and then and then I said, we're working on this documentary film on mobile homes, and I explained to them that I really like this image of a house that's kind of free, and for me this is something very special. And I felt that a lot of times people were very open to jump on. But I don't know, I sent DVDs to all of them and nobody ever wrote back. So I still don't know if they didn't get it because they had already moved somewhere else, or if they didn't like it because they had, I don't know, maybe they had thought I would make some great Hollywood film out of, I don't know. I still really would like to go back to the United States and present it there and talk to the people who were in the film.
Yeah. But maybe sometimes you have other expectations, and when you see yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. I really hope that, I mean, because it wouldn't be fair to them to make something that afterwards they feel, oh, no, this is really not something that I wanted to present. I mean, there's also this old guy in the desert with the dogs, and he was very in between. He somehow really wanted to be part of the film, but on the other hand, he also said he doesn't want people in Europe to see him and think bad about America, because he was obviously so poor. And but he wasn't worried about himself. He was worried about the image of America, that it isn't as great as people in Europe might think. And so he was very in between. But yeah, I think in the end he really wanted to be part of this experience, and he was also very proud to be filmed and to work with us.
It's a great moment in the film, this man, because he says that I don't like people. He says I don't like thieves.
Yeah.
I don't like people.
Yeah, this interview was the most intense one that we did. That would actually came out of this barbecue situation when I woke up in the middle of the night, and he was part of this crew, and the next morning he came in his pickup and we drove with him to the desert and filmed with him and the dogs. But after this, we were exhausted for several days, and we stopped and took a break at Grand Canyon to relax. Yeah.
Any new plan? Any new films on the way? Projects?
Yeah, actually, right now I'm working on a film on Karl Marx monuments in different places in Germany. And it will be a kind of ethnographical. I'm not so interested in experts or in Karl Marx theorists. I want to talk to people So anyway, it starts with the city of Trier in West Germany got donated a statue from Karl Marx from China for his 200th birthday. And I thought that was so absurd that they're right now setting up a new monument after taking down so many in East Germany, after socialism, after the wall came down, after everything. So I want to go to places in East and West Germany and where they have these monuments and talk to people how they feel about it. And so it will again be one topic, and this is the approach to talk to people in different spaces and to see how their lives are and how this theory or this Marxist theory influenced their lives or not, or some of them moved from East to West or from West to East, and so 30 years after the wall came down, I want to know how this is. It's not as exciting as going on a road trip in the United States, unfortunately. So I think after this, I want to do some film again where I can go travel somewhere. But
so
yeah, still.
It is a German road movie.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
No, we're looking forward for it. And last question for you. Currently in Greece, art workers are left out of basic benefits from the state, like due to the lockdown, concerts, theaters, cinemas, film shootings are cancelled. How is the situation in Germany?
It's not great. I mean, there are some fundings, but a lot of times they don't really actually apply to artists. So they have a support for small businesses, but then, yeah, you have to somehow prove your expenses, and if you don't fit into, because it's thinking from a business point of view that a lot of artists don't fit in. So most of the time they tell you just apply for social help, which is not great, but on the other hand, at least we have social help, and a lot of countries they don't have. So we will survive. We won't starve, but yeah, it could be much better. Instead of funding VW and the car industry, they could also have some better cultural funding for sure. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, compared to the situation in, I don't know, on the Greek islands with the refugee camps, and I mean, I'm really in quite a comfortable space. So,
yeah. It's very hard for refugees, especially currently in Greece, because they are like, today I've read that we had apartheid moments in Lesbos where they separated lines in a little supermarket to Greeks and refugees or immigrants. Yeah.
That's scary.
We are in a very edgy, we are back in edgy moments in Greece in general.
Also, not only Greece's fault, I'm blaming my own government. I mean,
yeah, like it's not people's fault, it's mainly governments and how, but people vote for government, so I don't know, it's a loop that you cannot get out. I also lived in Germany for 6 years, so
yeah, that's
I know.
Yeah, I just wish that it would show a more human face in this crisis.
I don't think capitalism overall has a human face. Can wear a mask, but the last question from the audience, actually, Lorenzo Melegari, who is going to be the next film after you with Into the Movement. He writes, congratulations, I like the movie very, very much. 2 technical questions. How big was the troupe? Did you film with a mirrorless camera, a GH5 or similar?
Yeah, well, technically it was very, very super basic. Sometimes I was all by myself. The maximum team size was 3. So for some time I filmed with Zebediah Smith, who did the camera from Los Angeles, and Nicholas J. Little for the sound. That was our biggest team. And then we had Canon D5, but afterwards, when I filmed with Stefan Auch, we filmed with also 2 small DSLR Canon cameras. So it was very basic, but on the other hand, I also felt, I mean, for example, talking to this guy with the dogs, he looked at our equipment and he said, yeah, if I would start smoking and drinking within a year, I could afford a camera like this. And somehow it was, I think it was good to not, you know, arrive with a super big technical equipment that was intimidating to people. And yeah, so it's also a balance. Now I own a GH5 and I'm quite happy about it. But yeah, last time this was still, yeah, and yeah, I also like working with DSLR cameras because they look like photo cameras and they're not so obvious if you want to film on the streets. And or when the police came, we didn't look like a film team. We looked like tourists who got excited about a mobile home and followed it, and which. So that made it a bit easier. They said you have to go now, but they didn't, because we didn't have any Drehgenehmigung. We weren't officially filming.
Yeah.
I didn't have any permit or anything. We just did it. Yep.
Do you want to add anything?
Well, thank you for doing what you do. I know you also do it with a lot of heart and very little funding, I'm guessing.
No funding.
And no funding. So
We're
it's really
working voluntary for the time, with no entrance at all to our screenings. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I think it's really important to, and yeah, because I also really feel, because my film was made with so little money, but also a lot of heart. So it's great to be shown in places like yours that also means something. You do it for a reason, and I think it's really important that we have these spaces because they also offer some kind of freedom, or at least the freedom that I think we need. A more place for experiments and independent films.
It is a project inspired by how projects work in Germany. So yeah, thank you very much again. We are looking forward for more work of yours.
Yeah, thank you.
We wish you the best. And
hopefully next time in person.
Thank you very much to the people that watched our live Q&A. And we will continue with Into the Movement from tomorrow with a Q&A coming again on Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for watching.